How's it going everyone, it's me, Vivi, and welcome to a Spyro related video. This time I'd like to discuss the villains from the classic trilogy, and perhaps theorize a bit, why not? It's gonna be fun. Let's go. Let's start off with Gnasty Gnorc. Gnasty is a creature called Gnorc, a creature who always seemed to have resided in the Dragon Realms. One day the dragons of the Dragon Realm, or Kingdom, believed Gnasty was really a threat. Well, the word I'd like to use first is annoyance. Threat is too much of a big word to start off with. With that, they exiled him to the junkyard, or in other words, the Dragon Junkyard. The moment he got there, Gnasty took over that section of their world, and called it Gnasty's world. The dragons were aware Gnasty was using their gems to create an army of Gnorcs. You might wonder, why even use their treasure? Knowing money bags from the later games, it's a source of riches. Well, fun fact, according to an archived portion of DNN, Dragon News Network, DNN's crack investigative team spoke with psychologist and Gnorc specialist Dr. Fruta Dragon. Gnasty resents the dragon populace for their peaceful communities. More than anything, he detests their beautiful, shiny jewels, which are not only nice to look at, but are a constant reminder of his own flaws. This gem envy, as we in the psychology field call it, is rather common among Gnorcs, but is greatly advanced in Gnasty's case. I would love to get him in my chair and discuss his mother. During a live broadcast by DNN in the first game, Dragon News Network, don't forget, the host Bob interviews the Elder Dragons on the status of their kingdom, and eventually, Gnasty gets angry while watching the livestream. Let me play the intro cutscene.
What about this Gnasty Gnorc character? Now, I understand he's found a magic spell to turn gems into warriors for his cause.
I'll take that question. Gnasty Gnorc is a simple creature.
Simple?
He has been contained in a remote world and is no threat to the Dragon Kingdom.
No threat?
Besides, he is ugly.
Ugly? That does it!
Huh? Looks like I've got some things to do.
Lindar provoked Gnasty, calls him ugly, and that basically sparked madness. As a way to get revenge for what Lindar said about him, he uses his staff to turn all dragons in crystal for Spyro to undo later. I've read fan theories that the Elder Dragons did this on purpose. You've probably come across this theory before. Plus, the fact that Spyro wasn't hit by the spell, regardless of his size. Yeah, people have been wondering about that. They believe that Spyro, well, the Elders wanted Spyro to go through this special training and have Gnasty Gnorc be in on it low-key. But here's the thing. 1, they show us Gnasty getting mad after watching that broadcast. Why would he be mad? Why show us that? It's not like Spyro was there next to Gnasty, him going mad, acting. That's not the case. By acting, it will make Spyro believe that this whole situation is true. And 2, why would the dragons try and face Gnasty? Dragons we've rescued before ending up in Gnasty's world and turned into crystal again? Unless they wanted a status update on the whole mission? And just in case have Gnasty turn them into crystal again if Spyro were to show up, not to raise any suspicion? Don't forget the 100% ending. The dragons again get turned to crystal. If the dragons wanted to prove a point to try and train Spyro, then why would Gnasty yet again turn the dragons to crystal? Don't forget, Gnasty hired thieves to steal dragon eggs. Why risk the lives of baby dragons, who are yet to be born? So with that out of the way, looking at the way Gnasty defends himself, well, he relies on defense. He's very afraid to attack up front. You chase after him, literally. If he hated the dragons so much, he'd just run after you and blast you. He takes extreme measures when his ego is toyed with. Just calling him ugly made him go haywire. Some believe he's so clumsy because we see a bunch of gems lying around in the homeworlds when you try to steal them. Although Gnasty looks all high and mighty, I still feel he fears the dragons. His only method towards offense was to create Gnorcs and turn dragons into crystal. He literally just runs away from Spyro when he faces him. If it weren't for Lindar calling Gnasty ugly, high chances Gnasty would have just lost, despite trying to raise an army. The dragons thought so when they exiled him to the junkyard. They thought, oh, Gnasty's not a huge problem, and I believe they were right. Did Gnasty have an alliance with the dragons at some point? What do you think? I'd like to say, perhaps. The fact he has a magic staff, don't forget, all source of magic is due to the dragons, if we go with the classic trilogy. And speaking of dragons, we've wondered for years what happened to the female dragons. They do exist, simply by having dragon eggs lying around. I mean, where would those come from? And there's another piece of information from the Archived, DNN. Although we didn't physically see female dragons in the first game, Spyro did rescue some. I think he's so dreamy, says Donna Dragon. It was love at first sight when that brave dragon unfroze me. Spyro gave me a quick wink and trotted off, but I know we made a connection. This makes us wonder, were the female dragons kept safe in a different realm? It's likely the elders kept their ladies safe as to keep the dragon population alive. You know, keep their legacy alive, the magic, and all that. Although thieves still managed to steal eggs, it's likely the absence of female dragons has to do with the elder dragons wanting to protect them. You know, keeping them in a separate area. The realms would be safe by the ongoing presence of their magic. Magic seems to be the key source of their world's ecosystem. Without it, it's possible their world would be in danger. The mere existence of portals seem to imply that magic does in fact play a big role in the dragon realms. Well, in the dragon society at least. So yeah, let's move on to Ripto. Ripto is a dinosaur type of creature, titled Riptok, if you've played Enter the Dragonfly. We aren't too sure what him and his minions were planning prior to their arrival to Avalar, but we do know that Ripto has a fond hatred of dragons. Seeing as how Ripto came through a portal and has a magic scepter, I like to believe Ripto at least came into contact with a dragon, or was in the dragon realms, sometime in the past. For some time, portals until Spyro 2 were all about magic. As for Avalar, it's all work done by the professor by using orb technology. If not for Avalar, then Ripto would have to rely on magical portals. High chance he did originate from the dragon realms. That world is notorious for magical portals. He could have come from that world and stole magic. Magic encased in a crystal. A crystal capable of outputting magic despite no dragons in Avalar. I don't think Spyro's presence is the reason his scepter works, as we aren't too sure if one dragon is enough to keep magic alive. He stole the magic as a way to perhaps wage war against the dragons, until he found the easy route. Have you ever noticed the scarred lip if looking at the reignited model? This makes me think maybe this was due to a dragon, like he got injured. Have you ever thought about that one? He gets transported to Avalar due to Hunter's mistake and thought, alright, I wanted to fight against the dragons, but here I am in a world with no dragons. Easy. Why waste my energy when I can just run away from dragons? With Ripto around, Avalar was doomed. Ripto wanted to be their new king. Out of fear, the gang made sure to find a dragon and of course seal off the super portal first. Eventually in Glimmer, they find Spyro, with luck, who was trying to go on vacation to the dragon shores. Ripto shows up and crashes the party. He smells a dragon. The fact he has the ability to smell dragons should tell us that he's been probably around a lot of dragons in the past. So right there and then, he goes on to try and blast Spyro. The scepter is ultimately lost. Gulp swallows it, while eats it and chews it. Ripto is more on the offense compared to Gnasty. He doesn't hesitate to try and blast Spyro, who is a dragon, a species he hates. He straight up shows how he just despises these creatures, either due to a bad experience, or just pure hate out of nature. When Spyro calls him Shorty, his mood just shifts and he gets aggravated, as if he's been called Shorty before, perhaps bullied by the dragons due to his size.
Bring it on, Shorty!
Go! Come here now!
And with that, due to his size, he was never taken seriously, he was made fun of. If this were true, then this could signify that dragons, while at least not all of them, acted as bullies with no second thought. Gnasty was called ugly after all. The manual of Spyro 2 in Europe states that Ripto was, in fact, bullied as a child. Those bullies could have been dragons. According to the epilogue from Spyro 2, which was omitted from Reignited, which is sad actually, a dragon used Ripto as a toy. Notice how an elder dragon seems to be in Summer Forest, which could hint at some of their magic lying around. Thus would explain the crystal being present in Avalar. Spyro's case could just be a mere coincidence, calling him Shorty. We don't really have to rely on that one to call the dragons bullies. But if anything, his hate could be out of jealousy. If the dragons weren't the source of his unfortunate childhood, well, it could be jealousy. Dragons are bigger, they can fly around, and are magical beings. Ripto is very controlling, always sending out his minions to do the dirty work. He's very dictator in nature. He's power hungry, by the simple fact he wanted to take over Avalar. In the epilogue of Spyro 3, him and Gnasty discuss the Spyro problem. It's like offense and defense finally meet. Next, the Sorceress. The Sorceress seems to be a crocodile mixed with dinosaur type of creature. If you're a fan of Sly Cooper, I like to compare her to Miss Ruby from Sly 1. What I liked about the Sorceress is that she brought more of a background to the Spyro the Dragon series. Dragons and the Sorceress used to reside in the same world, a world which was filled with magic. She had an argument with one of these dragons a long time ago. I don't believe the number of years were specified, but Bianca calls it a long time ago. As for the discussion argument part, at least that's what it seemed like when we got the flashback scene. Let me play it.
If we don't bring dragons back to this world soon, all our magic will be lost.
The dragons used to live here?
Yes, this was their original home. But a long time ago, the Sorceress banished them to the other side of the world. She didn't realize the dragons were the source of all our magic.
We never knew what caused the Sorceress to banish the dragons. Bianca, her former apprentice, explained to Hunter that she had no idea that magic was actually due to dragons. Remember, this was what the Sorceress taught Bianca. Who's to say the Sorceress wasn't lying? She's very cold-hearted by nature. She perhaps knew that magic was from dragons. She's been living with dragons for years. I mean, eventually she'd realize that the magic comes from these dragons. But eventually, she just wanted to put focus on the babies, probably due to their fresh, powerful source of magic. Her intent was to banish the dragons and focus on the babies as source of power. I'd like to imagine a scenario where even overusing magic has consequences. Aster in this scene was telling her not to abuse magic, as it can not only affect newborn dragons, but also cause destruction to their world. Now you see this right here, the whole talk about magic and dragons? I'd like them to use that as a plot device in a future game. By doing so, not only would they bring something fresh, but also, looking at the lovely designs of the dragons from Spyro 1, they could reuse them and feature them in a bunch of cutscenes. I would love to see, for example, Nestor just interacting with Spyro, walking in a hallway, whatever it is, in a future game, discussing the current problem. Anywho, back to the point. Another scenario about this flashback scene, Aster catches Sorceress using an egg on her staff as a source of power. She's using an unborn child. This could have been the start of her wanting to steal the eggs. The dragons were against it and poof, they were all banished. She just didn't want to deal with them. That one egg could have been the only one she could have stolen at the time. If the dragons lived in the same world before, all eggs would be there technically, when they all disappeared. So I'd like to think only a few were present during that time, enough for her to get her hands on one. Ultimately, the egg on her staff in Reignited could be an error. But hey, I love theories. In the original, the staff was absent, so we could easily tell the Sorceress acquired that egg on her staff due to Bianca. But in Reignited, it's as if she had already stolen an egg a long time ago. Plus, comparing the colors in the scene, if Bianca were to give the egg, they're both different colors. The egg from the intro is different to the egg currently on her staff. I'm probably grasping at straws here, but hey, she was stubborn, alright. She thought the dragons were in her way, like they had this sort of disagreement, so she didn't want to deal with it, use her magic, and exile them to the other side of the world, now called the Dragon Realms. As for their original world, which the Sorceress still resides in, it is now known as the Forgotten Realms. And one would think, how the heck has she remained alive for all these years? Magic. And if you think about it, Aster was still alive in this scene. This is probably 1,000 years ago, I could be wrong, it was never specified. But this was a long time ago. Magic alone could explain why dragons can live for so long. So knowing that magic is very important, she did everything in her power to try and remain alive. She entrusted, well rather tricked Bianca into believing that stealing the dragon eggs. Who better to trick other than Bianca, right? She used that opportunity to use her as a tool. She hires Bianca, tricks her into believing that bringing back the eggs would bring magic to the land. She only wanted the dragon eggs, to rip off those dragon wings, and create a spell in order to live forever. Plus, don't forget the portals in Spyro 3, you need to collect eggs to activate them. So that should tell you that dragon eggs are a powerful source of magic. So wait, after all these years, the Sorceress was able to be kept alive? I'd like to believe there was enough magic for her to still live until she finds Bianca. Basically call it perfect timing. She's heartless, alright. She's the most darkest villain out of the bunch, just for that reason alone.
That's it! I've had enough! I'm going to create a monster to end all monsters! And I'm going to send it out to destroy all the dragons, even the little hatchlings. Yes, it will smash them and crush them and grind them and tear them. Oh, yes! Smear them and smush them and crack them and crease them!
Trying to kill baby dragons, whatever it takes, only to follow her devious goal? She doesn't care what it takes. We're talking about taking away baby body parts, even if that means killing them. Gnasty and Ripto? They didn't seem like villains who would just kill, straight up from the get-go. Yes, Ripto did say he wants to kill the fairies, well that's when they triggered him. Ripto's general goal was to take over Avalar and turn the people there into his slaves, basically. As for Gnasty, he was just annoyed. So he thought he'd just turn the dragons into crystal and just have a day and laugh about it. But as for the Sorceress, she straight up just wants to kill baby dragons in order to live forever. Yeah, she does mention at a point, well, I just want to rip off their wings to stop them from wriggling around too much, but still. The way she was describing how dragons should die, squashing them, crushing them and all that, yeah. She's different, alright. So with that being said, folks, I guess this is it for the video. So in the comment section below, tell me, who is your favorite villain in the classic trilogy? Who do you feel is the darkest villain? Leave all of your thoughts in the comment section below, alright? So with that being said, I'm Vivi, and as usual, thank you so much for the support. Until next time.